It has been 1 month since the release of Lord of Hatred, and while Diablo 4 has definitely improved, there are still plenty of things that could make the game even better. So in this video I'm going to go over some of the biggest things I'd personally like to see added, changed, or improved in Diablo 4 Season 14. Some of them are small fixes, some are big changes, but all of them could make the next season a lot more enjoyable to play. Let's start with the most obvious one, which I call server stability. Basically, the game runs like dog shit. There's no two ways about it. And this has been an ongoing situation for 3 years. Yes, there were instances where the game was running fine for me, but most of the time it was plagued by several problems. Lag, rubber banding, and freezes. Some of you might say that my PC is dog shit, that there is definitely something wrong with my hardware, and the answer is no. This season was a test for me, and I decided to play the game on lowest graphical settings that exist in the game. And there wasn't any difference whatsoever. I experienced lag, freezes, rubber banding, pretty much everything that you experience in an online game that messes with your playtime. I was also checking RAM usage, and it's wilding. Usually, from what I remember, it would be around 5-6 gigabytes of RAM, but sometimes the game pushes the RAM up to 9 gigs for no apparent reason, and then it goes lower to 6. I could say this is an evidence of RAM leak, but that would be false because I'm not an expert, nor do I know how RAM leakage looks like. I did, however, see on several places people discussing about a possible RAM leak. But again, I cannot really confirm this independently. Also, another funny thing is that when you close the game, the usual way, it just hangs there for a couple of minutes before actually closing. Well, not actually a couple of minutes, but a minute or two. But then what's strange is that the game closed, but when I go in Task Manager, I still see the process hanging in there and sapping my RAM. I cannot say for sure how long the game is kinda hanging in there in terms of sapping my RAM usage, but usually what I do, I just end the process in Task Manager as is. And let me tell you, this does not look like a normal thing, because I have never seen any game do this particular bullshit with hanging in the Task Manager as a service or as a process, and then I need to kill it manually. This alone tells me the game has severe issues when it comes to either taking resources the way it should, or that there is something wrong on the server side where I'm experiencing these problems. Also, I have to report, and by the way, this is anecdotal experience, when I started playing the season right when it launched, it was kinda okay. I didn't have a lot of issues, but every single hotfix or patch made the game worse than I initially anticipated. So every single time when I see in patch notes that they improved game stability, to me that just means that the game is gonna run more like dog shit. I don't know if this is something that you guys experienced as well, and if you have, please comment down below, because I am really curious about what others are saying in terms of game stability. Do I believe that it is going to be better next season? The answer is simply no, I don't, because that's what experience teaches me when it comes to Diablo 4. I suppose the only thing that you can do is to have more than 16 gigs of RAM in terms of RAM sapping, but when we are talking about server stability, lag, rubber banding, and all other issues, I don't harbor a lot of hope that things are going to be better. Next thing that I want to see in Season 14 is bigger stash. It is infuriating how much time I am actually spending in front of the fucking stash in order to organize things. Simply because there is not a lot of fucking space. And I'm pretty much aware how their system works because there was an article about it, if I remember correctly. It's all about that when you open the stash or when you open the game, it kinda loads everybody's stash in an instance or something like that. But frankly, I don't give a fuck. I don't care how the game operates. I just want bigger stash. So that should be your main fucking priority when it comes to me having more fun or more enjoyment playing the game. Currently, the situation is appalling. First of all, the stash is limiting me how many builds I can play per character. Second problem is how many characters I can actually roll, because there is not a lot of space for me to dump stuff that I might use with the character in mind. And obviously the third problem is all about the management of the items that I have in the stash. This has been a problem forever in Diablo 4. And while they were able to introduce more stash tabs, it's still not fucking enough. Also, since we are talking about stash tabs, why don't we have an ability to move stash tabs however we want. Instead, you are stuck with this preset, and that's about it. You cannot move stash tab number 1 to stash tab number 3's place and vice versa. It's so fucking rigid, especially when you compare it to certain other games where stash is just amazingly fluid and abundant. So yeah, this season, which was really good in terms of changes, I couldn't play more characters other than my 3 that I already made, which is Warlock, Paladin, and Barbarian, just because the stash was limiting me in what I wanted to do. So how do you solve this problem? Well, the most obvious solution is to double the stash tab, and then I will be able to do more things and spend more time playing the game. Because remember, if you don't have the means to play the game and you want to play it, you're not gonna play it. I'm not going to smack my head against the wall in order to figure out how am I supposed to fit another character in my stash tab configuration. I'll just give up. Maybe I'll play it next season, but then again, it depends on the meta, so I might completely miss out on certain amazing characters or rather playstyles just because I cannot fit the goddamn things in my stash tab. Next point that I want to talk about is all about uniques. Plain and simple, Blizzard tried to reshuffle the unique equation a bit, but sadly they failed. At this point, uniques are just, legendaries with extra effect, because that's how it feels. There is absolutely no reason to stash them, because the way the affixes are working now, it's completely wild. You don't know what you're gonna get. It's kinda better for weapons because there are certain affixes that are always present on weapons no matter what you do, like for example weapon damage or core stat, so you can kinda get what you need. But when we're talking about armor and amulets for example, it's a complete shit show. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not against this particular change, because like I mentioned in my initial review, it's not that bad, but only if you introduce the ability to reroll affixes on your uniques. And we can do that because we have the cube. The only thing that you need to do, or rather that you need to make fixed, is the greater affixes. So for example, if you are re-rolling certain affix on a unique item, the currency for the reroll will be the same unique item that you have in your cube. So you basically farm 20 of the same uniques, you pick one that you think that's the best, and then you use the remaining 19 to reroll things. If you want to reroll a GA stat, then you need to use Ancestral Unique, and if you want to reroll a normal stat, so non-GA stat, you just use a normal unique. That way we are still farming uniques, but at least you know that you might eventually get the stat that you want on the said unique. And in my opinion, I think this system is amazing. But again, if you guys have better suggestions, please let me know down in the comments. Point being, too much randomness on uniques is not great. And that needs to change. Next change is all about making Warplans account-wide. Again, the theme song of this particular expansion is you're not supposed to play alts, because every single mechanic and feature is against this particular notion. And in terms of Warplans, it's basically obvious why this is a bad thing for alts. Since the progress isn't shared across your characters or across accounts, every single new character that you make needs to grind through the Warplans again and again from scratch. And I talked about this with my pals that are playing the game, and every single one of them said that they're not going to make a single new character because it's just a waste of fucking time. I was the only one who was retarded enough to make 3 characters, but even I recognize that I need to stick to one in order to complete those seasonal journeys that are connected with the Warplans. So yeah, Warplans are not bad, they just need to be account-wide. Also, when we're talking about Warplans, it would be nice if I can farm one activity continuously, which means that I should have the ability to select 5 pits and just blast them non-stop. Why? Because I should be able to do so, because that's how you play the fucking game. You pick the activity and you farm it non-stop until you get what you want. In this case, I want my glyphs to be level 100, so I'm going to farm pit until I fucking drop dead. However, with the Warplans, we don't have that option. Sure thing, you can reroll the Warplan and maybe you get 2 or 3 pits one after another. But I want to play it continuously, or rather I want to farm it continuously. Next point is all about visual clutter. If you played Warlock this season, you probably have epilepsy at this point. Because I swear to God, the Apocalypse Warlock was just horrible when it comes to particle effects and visual clutter. I would say 80% of my deaths was all about me not being able to see what the fuck is happening on the screen because it was so oversaturated I couldn't see a damn thing on my screen. Which is mind-boggling to me because we already had this issue back in the day with that corpse explosion warlock thing when it becomes a shadow skill. Which kinda makes you wonder, do these people even learn from their mistakes? Is anybody even testing these things seriously? Because if I, a common pleb, could see that there is a problem with this, then fucking anyone can see it. It's just so unreal when we need to address things that I thought we already addressed in the past. So yeah, the visual clutter, it needs to go away. I don't know what you're gonna do with it. I don't know how you're gonna solve this problem, but this problem needs to be solved, period. Okay, so this next one might be a bit controversial, but I want auction house in-game. Like I said before, all credit to people who are doing the Diablo.trade thing, but I want to trade in-game. I don't want to alt-tab, because it's so fucking annoying. Blizzard already made auction house once, and that was in Diablo 3. So I know they can make it again. Only this time, let's not push the fucking real money auction house, let's just push the normal auction house with gold. Because in my opinion, that would also motivate more people to trade, which means that they would have less stuff in their stash. Again, you kinda kill two birds with one stone. You allow players to get rid of their items easily, because there's going to be someone who's gonna buy every single item no matter what. And you allow us to engage in trade, because I know that so many people are avoiding Diablo.trade or trade in general because it's so fucking annoying and so tedious. I could never understand why a game like this doesn't have an auction house where I can trade my items, unless you want to play solo self-found, but that mode does not exist in Diablo, so you can only play it if you impose it on yourself. So yeah, I am a huge proponent for auction house in game, because I want everything to be in its own ecosystem. I don't want to use third-party solutions when I know that this one can be implemented. Obviously, it's gonna take some time, but still, it needs to happen. Next point is all about implementing a combat log in the game, because I wanna know what fucking killed me. I wanna know how my resistances and my armor is reducing the damage that I take. It's so weird to me that we are playing a game which is obviously focused on numbers to a point where we analyze every single digit. And yet, for some reason, we don't have a log that shows you what the hell happens when you use a skill, or at least what killed you. Now, this could be solved if we removed on-death effects, because that's what kills me most of the time. But still, I would like to see the damage and the resistances and all that stuff in a nice way so I can analyze shit. Next point is all about auto-looting certain items. For example, here it's all about cube materials. I don't know why didn't they make your small little pet dude able to pick these things, but okay, whatever, maybe that's gonna happen in the next season, or rather, it should happen in the next season. Next point is all about redesigning Uber bosses, namely Lilith and Mephisto. Lilith is a still piece of shit fight. You can only kill her if you have a Giga Chat build that burns her without actually playing through the mechanics, because they're so fucking retarded. So that whole boss fight needs to be redesigned because it's just ridiculous. As far as Mephisto goes, here's the thing. If you want to do Mephisto these days, you need to use Enduring Faith, either like an item or as a charm. But most of the time people use it as a charm. And that alone points to me that, well, if you have everyone using this thing, there's something wrong with that fight. Now, I managed to kill Mephisto on tier 10 with 3 characters, and I managed to kill him on my Immortal Barbarian, but because the Barbarian is immortal, I mean, you don't really dodge anything. So what's the fucking point of mechanics in the first place? But yeah, if I'm doing, let's say, pit 130 with no issues, but I cannot survive tier 10 one-shot, then there's something wrong with that particular fight. Also, issues with that fight are connected to the visual clutter because I cannot see things on the floor. And the second thing I want to point out is all about skipping cutscenes. I don't understand how someone could be like, okay, we're gonna use the same cutscenes when we are using in fucking campaign without actually playing the fucking game. Because if you notice, you're kinda losing your focus when you need to slog through those 3 or 4 cutscenes just to go to another phase. It's so fucking dumb. I don't really understand how they can design these things without having other things in mind. And at this point, I'm not even doubting that the developers themselves are not playing the game. Because if you are playing the game, you can notice these things immediately. There are some other things that I can mention, like bigger pickup radius for the pet, more mount charges inside the city, I think it should be infinite amount, and perhaps bigger mob density in Torment 12. I don't know why, but I feel like in Helltides, for example, even in the pit, the density was kinda lowish. So yeah, you should kinda check out what's happening there and increase it maybe. Oh yeah, and before I forget, fix the damn situation with gem fragments. Crafting Horadric gems is a pain in the ass because there are only two ways you can do it. One of them is either farming Infernal Hordes, and the other is slogging through that nightmare dungeon. If you don't understand why this is bad, well, I'm telling you now why it's bad. Because it's dumb. This thing should come organically as you play the game. You should collect the gems as is, not forcing one activity, which by the way it's so dumb, in order to craft even a single gem, and that's only in order to complete the seasonal journey. So yeah, fix that shit now, please. Thank you. Also, since I was talking about increasing stuff, it would be nice to see that stuff that we hide with the loot filter kinda gets auto-salvaged immediately. Because what happens is, eventually you will run out of items in order to modify your gear when you get the item that you want. And I found myself not hiding certain items, particularly legendaries, even though they weren't ancestral or GA legendaries. Because I kinda recognize that I'm going to be in problem considering I won't have enough souls or whatever the fuck it drops when you salvage these things. Next point is all about class balancing. Now, I know, it's very hard to do these things, I understand, but let's look at this problem from this particular viewpoint. If I'm going to have a class which does not have an S tier build, which means that I'm going to struggle in order to reach the end of, for example, seasonal journey or, I don't know, higher pit levels, then what's the point playing that class when you take, for example, a Selig Whirlwind Barbarian who just mows things and you don't really give a shit about anything else, you just play one class and that's about it. Because I've seen more often than not people saying that they played, for example, Aura Paladin or, I don't know, Wing Strike Paladin, but when they switched to Whirlwind Barbarian, they just lost interest playing Paladin completely. Now, you might say, well, there are leaderboards and you can push certain class, but that also has issues. For example, if we are going to play only one build in order to be on top of the leaderboard, that essentially means that you are constricting the builds that people are going to play. Why can't we have a situation from Diablo 4 where we had several builds competing independently in order to reach the top Greater Rift level? I remember I would decide to play Thorns Crusader and I didn't really give a fuck about other Crusader builds. I just wanted to be the very best Thorns Crusader there is, and that was a legitimate thing back in the day, and people did that. And that's one of the reasons I hate the current leaderboards, because it's always one same build, because that's the only build that can reach that particular level in the pit. And I'm not gonna talk about exploits and all other stuff that people are doing, I'm just talking about general situation. I wanna compete against, let's say, minion necromancers to see whether or not I can be the best minion necromancer. But at the moment, if you want to be the best necromancer, you just play fucking Bloodwave. And all the other builds are completely non-existent because nobody gives a fuck. Now, I understand that, for example, we don't have the same situation like in Diablo 3, whereby your item set was defining what kind of build are you going to play, and that was basically the indicator of the build that you're engaging with. Here, in Diablo 4, that's not possible. But let's say maybe because, I don't know, we kinda declare ourselves that we are playing Minion Necromancer build, or at least that's what I would do. I would say, okay, I'm playing a Whirlwind Barbarian and I need to have Whirlwind on my skill bar, and that's how you differentiate. I don't know, I'm just giving random ideas because, like I said, the leaderboards are stupid. It makes absolutely no sense and it's killing build diversity because nobody will play anything else other than one single build that can dish so much damage, thereby making other builds irrelevant. Maybe you might use them for leveling, but essentially we're all going to use what's the best and what does the most damage. So yeah, this thing needs to be addressed because it's just detrimental to the game itself. You just select the top one build for each class and that's it. The game essentially has 8 classes and it has 8 builds. Fucking amazing. Anyway, there are a lot of minor things that I might also mention, but I think this is more than enough in terms of what I would like to see in the next Diablo 4 season. Who knows, maybe they will change certain things, maybe they will not. But from my point of view, everything that I have outlined here makes absolutely complete sense. It's just a matter of how much developers are aware of these issues, and more importantly, how long will it take for them to implement these things. Hell, for fucking, let's say, auction house, it would probably take them, 3 seasons in order to implement this. Or they might say, you have Diablo.trade, use that, we don't care. Because apparently what I can see, that's basically what the situation is. But at the end of the day, this is just my take. Let me know in the comments what you would like to see in Season 14, and whether or not my babbling has any sense whatsoever. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And that's it from me, until the next one.